I'm Nancy Keefe Rhodes. I live here in Syracuse. I'm an arts journalist. I write primarily about film, photo, and visual arts. Sometimes I teach some film theory. I've done a little bit of curating before. I worked for some time on a photo restoration project with a local photographer, Marjorie Wilkins, and her early black and white photos. And I really was very excited to be asked to do this because what it occurred to me is it was a chance to get some training on the inside. Usually I'm writing about what shows look like, and I may be interviewing the artist, and I may be talking to the curator a little bit, but it struck me that I really would have some people help me understand this process much more intimately if I were to do it myself. I was talking earlier today with Dominic Iacono about this, and we had kind of used the term WPA era art as shorthand, but it's broader than that. It's broader than just Depression art. It's what was sparked during the decade of the 1930s and the early 40s in terms of how we view the artist. How does the public view the artist? How does the artist view the community? Is there a covenant between the artist and the community? Is art for something? Is it part of the pursuit of happiness, which people who know Roosevelt will know he said was part of our citizenship duties, is to pursue being happy. And what can the artist do for the community? I sit on the Public Arts Commission in the city of Syracuse, and so people bring us proposals about public art. And I find myself sometimes very excited about them, and sometimes wondering what people were thinking and why they think this project is going to invite people into art, bring art into people's lives. This was an era that I think when art worked, which is the title of Roger Kennedy's book from late last year. When art worked, the New Deal Art and Democracy, which he did with David Larkin. This book was given to me as a Christmas present by someone who was doing work actually in Afghanistan in communities. She had been home last fall and heard Roger Kennedy on NPR and said, you have to listen to this and you have to read this book. And the work that you've been doing has been so valuable in terms of why arts are important in communities. And in the countryside of Afghanistan, that's really important. So she sent me the book for Christmas, and I was so terribly inspired by it in terms of an era when art was considered important as work. Dominic said earlier that George Biddle had said that's why they call it artwork, that artists should make money too. And that the arts could do something for the community. Not everyone agrees that that era was a success, but it's a tremendously rich era, and it's a place to start thinking about what is public art and what is the artist's relationship to the community. Many of the artists in the exhibition didn't do WPA art, but they either taught artists who did, or they knew them, or there was a tremendous network among the artists who worked during that era. So I've tried to put something together that's maybe WPA era, but is not so much about the government programs and whether they worked or not, but what happened to what art means to the rest of us, and can we learn something from that? I'm very fond of some of the murals, but and we have a number of examples of the mural work. There was a lot to work out at the local level with a project this vast. I love Harry Gottlieb's work. I had a hard time cutting down, using fewer pieces. I would have used a lot more. I discovered some artists, particularly some women artists, that by serendipity the university only had one piece of their work. And somehow it magically found its way here, and so we're going to be able to use some of them. I love Doc Thrash's work. There are two pieces. one in this show and one over in another gallery that's being used in another show. Some of the pieces that would have been in this show have gone to New York to another show. So the collection is very active. A lot is going on with what's happening in these archives, and that's really exciting. So I think we'll be able to talk about that some in the show. There were a number of matrices that I had working in my mind, but I also had to like the piece. I had to see it and kind of go, I want this one. I hope that people will use this as what an old teacher of mine called an object to think with. That they'll think about the relationship of the artist to the community, what we owe each other, what we have to do for each other, and I hope they'll love the art. You know, this was a very politically charged period, and so it has remained a very controversial one. Not everyone agrees that it was great. So we're not saying that it was great, but some really exciting and still vibrant and still very rich ideas and concepts came out of it, and some great art. There are things that people can look at, and I hope they too will look at something and go,